Hi guys, I trust that you're feeling well and awesome. Welcome to this video on grade 10 mathematics, and in this video we'll be having a look at analytical geometry, particularly with the concept of the gradient. This is our third video in the series of videos covering grade 10 analytical geometry. In the previous video we had a look at the midpoint formula, or the midpoint between 2 points, and in this video we're continuing from there by looking at the gradient. So we said that we covered the midpoint and the distance between 2 points. But now what if we're looking for the gradient between the 2 points? That's what we'll be looking at in this video. So just a revision of what we said about analytical geometry or coordinate geometry. We said this is the study of geometry using coordinates. So the same quadrilaterals, triangles, parallel and perpendicular lines, and straight lines that you covered in Euclidean geometry, we are still assessing them here. The only difference is that now we're making use of coordinates. So the following subtopics are what we look at in grade 10. We've got the distance formula, which we covered in our first video. We've got the midpoint formula, which we covered in the previous video. Then in this video, we'll be focusing on the gradient. Then we look at parallel and perpendicular lines. And then lastly, we'll have a look at the equation of a straight line. Now, the gradient is defined as the slope of the line joining 2 points. So basically, if you have a straight line, the gradient would be the slope. Slope can also be the steepness of the line. So by looking at the slope of the gradient, we're talking about how steep the line is, straight line. I hope that makes sense. Now, to calculate the gradient using two coordinates, we need to use the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Once again, just like what we said in the distance formula and in the midpoint formula, we can write this as y1 minus y2, but then we have to start with x1 minus x2. Swapping the coordinates unnecessarily will cause you to have an incorrect answer. Now, something to take note of is, when we were looking at the midpoint in the previous video, you would remember that we also used m. What is then the difference between m for midpoint and m for gradient? Notice that the m for midpoint is a lowercase, meaning it is a small letter m. And then the m for midpoint is the capital M. Please take note of that and be aware of the differences between the two symbols. Now, let's look at some examples. The first example says we need to calculate the gradient between the points -7 and 0 and 4 and 12. So let's have a look at that. The points we are given are -7 and 0, and then we've got 4 and 12. Now the question says that we need to calculate the gradient between the 2 points. As I did in the first few videos, I need to identify what x1 is first and y1. Then I need to label x2 and y2. This is important. So your gradient is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And this is going to give you, for y2, that's 12, minus y1, which is 0, divided by x2, that's 4, minus x1, which is -7. Please be careful of the negative sign, rather use brackets for safety. So this is going to give you 12 minus 0, that's 12, divided by, that's going to be 4, negative times negative gives us +7. 4 plus 7, that's going to give us 11, and therefore our slope or our gradient is 12 over 11. I hope that makes sense. Let's look at the next question. So, in our next question, we're calculating the gradient of the line segment joining points Q with the coordinates -1 and 1, and R with the coordinates 14 and 12. So let's have a look at how we would do that. Similar to what we did in the previous question, let's first write down our coordinates. So for Q, our coordinates are -1 and 1. Sorry, -1 and -1. And then for R, our coordinates are 14 and 12. And so what we need to do once again is, let's label our coordinates. If this is x1, then this is y1. If this is x2, then this is y2. So our gradient is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now this will give you, for y2 we've got 12, minus y1, which is -1, divided by x2, that's 14, minus x1, which is -1 again. And when we simplify this, we're going to get 12 plus 1 divided by 14 plus 1. And this is going to give us an answer of 13 over 15 for our gradient. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you guys are understanding how to go about using the gradient formula. Cool. In our next question, We're given the points f and g. Then we're told that the gradient is negative a half, and we need to solve for x. So let's write down the coordinates, and then let's take it from there. So we are given the coordinates of f is 1 and 12. Then the coordinates of g are given to us as x and 9. We are given the gradient, which, remember, by the way, small letter m, is a negative a half. So that's negative a half. Once again, let's start by labeling our points. This is going to be x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. So your gradient is going to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This is going to give you 9 minus y1, which is 12, divided by x2 is x minus x1, which is 1. We are given the gradient as negative a half like that. Let's simplify this. So negative a half is equals to 9 minus 12. That's going to give you negative 3 over x minus 1. Now when we get to this point, we need to solve for x. And to solve for x, you would remember that we need to do our cross multiplication. So negative 1 times x minus 1, that's negative 1 times x minus 1. And this is equals to negative 3 times 2. Let's see where this is going to take us. So if we multiply in the negative 1, we will get negative x plus 1 is equals to negative 6. Now we can solve for x by taking the 1 over to the other side. Negative x is equals to negative 6 minus 1. You get negative x is equals to negative 7. We can divide this by negative 1 to solve for x, and we get x is equals to 7. Brilliant. Life is great. Let's look at our next question. So, in the next question, we've got the points a, b, c, and d. Now, the question says we need to find the gradient of a, b, and c, d. First, let's go to our writing pad and copy down the points. So, we are given point A with the coordinates of 4 and 0. We are given point B with the coordinates of 12 and 0. We are given point C with the coordinates 5 and 8. And then we are given D with the coordinates 5 and 14. The question wants us to calculate the gradient of AB and the gradient of CD. Let's start with the gradient of AB. So, label this x1, label this y1, label this x2, label this y2. Let's calculate the gradient. So, our gradient here will be equals to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And this is going to give you 0 minus 0 divided by, now x2, that's 12 minus 4. You will see that you just get an answer of 0 here. Interesting. Is this possible? Well, yes, it is. Fair enough. Let's look at CD, the gradient of CD. Once again, let's label this x1, let's label this y1, let's label this x2, and let's label this y2. So, our gradient is going to be equals to, let me put it on the next line. So, our gradient is going to be equals to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This will give us, for y2 we've got 14, minus y1, which is 8, divided by x2 is 5, minus x1, which is 5. Let's see, 8 minus 14, that is going to give us 6 over 0. We've got a little bit of a problem here. This is going to give us undefined. Is this possible? Well, yes, it is. It is possible for us to have 0 as a gradient. It is possible for us to have undefined as a gradient. Please take note, if you've got two coordinates with the same y value, your gradient will always be 0. If you've got two coordinates with the same x value, your gradient will always be undefined. What is the meaning of a 0 gradient and an undefined gradient? Well, we shall look at that when we look at the equation of the straight line 2 videos from now. I hope that this makes sense to you guys, and I hope that you understand how to make use of the gradient. If you do, please give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and please share the video with others so that everybody may be benefiting from the knowledge that you're learning. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, any requests, please do leave it to the comment section, and we will make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Until then, have a blessed day. Ciao.